Hello viewers, welcome to our lecture series on contemporary issues in business and management, and in this very series of contemporary issues in business and management, we will talk about ESG reporting in India. I will be telling you about its evolution, the principles, and what exactly we mean by the term ESG in the business corridors, and what has been the history of it, the way it has evolved. And when we talk about ESG reporting in India, there is a synonym term to it, which is called as BRSR. So I'll tell you about the BRSR in India, ESG, the pathways to sustainable development goals, the way it has evolved, what is the background of business responsibility and sustainability reporting, the 9 principles of NGRBCs, that is National Guidelines on Responsible Business Conduct. So that is all is the agenda of our today's discussion on the topic of ESG reporting in India. So you must be wondering what do we mean by the term ESG? It is an acronym of 3 important terms. One is representing environmental concerns, another is talking about social concerns, and third one is talking about governance. So these 3 alphabets, they are basically representing 3 important concerns of ours, that is in the name of environmental, social and governance. So this is all about ESG as an acronym. So in India, this environmental, social and governance, that refers to the broad criteria which is used to do the measurement of a company's sustainability and ethical impact. When we use the term ESG, at times the S is being called as sustainable, and that is right in a way also, because we are talking about sustainability only. So it is basically a kind of evaluation of the non-financial performance of a company. To what extent you have been concerned towards the environmental issues, to what extent you have taken care of the social issues or social impacts, and of course the governance which you are exercising in your company. So ESG is basically representing these 3 important concerns, and while when we talk about BRSR, it is representing business responsibility and sustainability report, that is called BRSR. Now when it comes to define it, I would say that it is actually the specific mandated reporting framework which is introduced by the Securities and Exchange Board of India, that is SEBI, for listed companies to disclose their performance on these important metrics. So this business responsibility and sustainability report, to which I will be calling as BRSR in our further discussions, it is basically telling us about the performance of a company, of a corporate entity, on these significant parameters called ESG, which is again represented by environmental, social and governance. Now coming to the background of it, the way it started. So this global ESG disclosure requirements, they have significantly advanced over the last 10 years. If you look into the past decade, you would find that there is lot of advancement into ESG disclosure requirements, and it is now holding companies accountable for their ESG responsibilities as well. So it is not only the profit which you are making is important as a company, but also the ESG concerns of yours, which is going to be accounted for by the society at large, by your customers, and of course all the stakeholders. If you look at Indian perspective, the Companies Act 2013, it actually introduced early ESG disclosure mandates, and it required board of directors to report on basically the energy conservation under section 134M. So under section 134 of the Companies Act 2013, it was mandated for companies to do the disclosure, for board of directors to report on to what extent you have worked upon the energy conservation under this very section. So we can say that it is not at all a new term which is coming to us. Way back to 2013, we started reporting about the energy conservation under Companies Act 2013. So SEBI's LODR regulations, that is listing obligation and disclosure requirements 2015, it also mandate companies to disclose the opportunities, threats, risks and concerns in their annual report. So, as a company under LODR regulations, SEBI also mandates companies, they mandated it in 2015, that you have to also disclose the opportunities, threats and other concerns which are of non-financial in nature, whatever project you are into, whatever plans you are into. If it has some threats or risk or concern towards ESG, you have to report into the annual report of your company. And when we talk about ESG, we cannot forget the Global Reporting Initiative, that is GRI. GRI actually defines the BRSR. It says that BRSR is actually a report detailing a company's economic, environmental and social impacts from the routine activities of a company, to which you can call as the daily activities of a company. So, this GRI, or Global Reporting Initiative, has aptly defined BRSR, that it is actually telling us about the company's economic, environmental and social impact from the routine activities of a company. So, gone are the days when we used to evaluate the company's performance by its financials only, by looking at its financial reporting only. Now, we are looking for something else, something beyond what your balance sheet, what your income statement speaks about. We are equally concerned about the responsibility of a company as a responsible corporate citizen of the nation, where they do have equal concerns about the environmental problems, the social issues, and also they should ensure the component of ethical behavior into their governance. So, when we talk about ESG, it becomes pertinent for us to know what is the scope and what are the concerns of ESG. Why do we need ESG? What is the reason behind coming up with this very idea of ESG reporting? What was there into the mind of the people who talked about the ESG? So, let me give you some significant examples of ESG, its scope and concerns. So, let me tell you about the environmental, social and governance, and starting with environmental. For instance, if I have to talk about the environmental concerns, there can be an example of GHG, greenhouse gas emissions. What is the what is the extent of emission you are actually creating in the environment? What is the impact of your activities on climate change? To what extent you have negatively contributed to this climate change? Or even if it is positive, that too need to be reported. To what extent you are going for water management? We have recently seen that the Honorable President of India has given awards to some of the bureaucrats and the local authorities for this water management. It actually gives a reflection of the concern of ours, in terms of environmental degradations, the water management, or what you call as depleting water resources. So, we need to conserve water. If I have to exemplify social concern, there can be some examples like social well-being, health, security and safety of people who are working conditions which we are offering to our employees, whether it is conducive or not, the benefits which employees are getting, that also accounts for the social concerns. And of course, when we talk about governance, the business ethics and the ethical standards which we are following. What is the composition of our board? To what extent we have been following the rules and regulations of the relevant enactment, that is Companies Act 2013, if you are a joint stock company, and if you are a banking company, then of course in addition to this Companies Act 2013, you have to take care of Banking Regulation Act 1949. So, what is the composition of your board? Process, the process which you are following for the formation of board, diversity which you incorporate into your board, and then of course the governance issues, the structure of board committees, the way you have planned. What is the state of independent director? Are they actually independent, or they are simply on paper they are independent, but they are completely dependent on the rest of the members? That should not be the case. So the structure of board, the composition and the business ethics which you are following into your governance, that is giving a reflection of your company's governance policy, whether it is a good governance or it is governance only for the sake of complying with the rules and regulations, or you can say for the sake of conducting the secretarial audit. Now, when we extend this, examples of these examples and scope and concerns of ESG, in environmental category we have recycling process. So, to what extent you are going for recycling process? How do you contribute towards deforestation, emergency preparedness and disaster management, whether you are prepared for those natural calamities which may which may come to us without any information, and to what extent we are prepared for that. So all that is coming under the scope and concerns of environmental concern. And when we talk about the social concerns, it can be gender diversity and inclusion, respect for human rights and impact on local communities. Suppose I am working as a corporate entity and the factory which is being established in a specific area, the cause of emissions and all, cause of noise into the factory, the local community is getting lot of disturbance. So that is also a concern, that we need to take care of those problems which local community, which nearby people are witnessing or bearing with only because of our company's presence. So that comes under the social concern. And in governance we do talk about risk management systems, stakeholder engagement, anti-corruption and anti-bribery policies. What kind of whistleblowing system you have? Do you provide protection to the whistleblowers? Do you have some ethical standards and behaviors once somebody is filing a complaint? Whether we are having a proper grievance redressal system or not. So, my dear learners, when I am defining you the scope and concerns of ESG, I am actually trying to tell you that it is very wide, and these examples are able to tell us that to what extent we are supposed to be responsible when it comes to the environmental, social and governance. So, it is much more than what we have been doing previously. We have simply been talking about making profit and distributing it as dividend among the shareholders or among the stakeholders. That is not the only work which a corporate entity is supposed to do. As a responsible corporate citizen, just like a usual citizen, a normal citizen, companies do have these responsibilities to play. In Indian scenario, it has been a very long practice. So if you ask me that whether it is new for India, I would say no. It is not at all new for India. For global corporate entities, it can be a new thing to do. But yes, we have got a new name for it, that I am not denying. But whatever they are prescribing to us in the name of ESG, somehow we have been doing it in one way or the other. We have companies like Tata, which is known as one of the most ethical company in the world. So we have companies, we have corporate entities which have not established their factory in a developed area. They chose to go to the most backward area of the country, which is now it is established in the name of Tata Nagar, that is in Jamshedpur. So we have to understand, my dear learners, what exactly is the intention or intent behind implementation of this ESG, that is environmental, social and governance. Now, when we talk about ESG, we should understand its relationship with the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. That is a goal which is being prescribed by the United Nations Development Programme for the entire world. And in 2015, when there was a Paris Climate Agreement commitment from 193 signatory countries in order to achieve reduction in the quantum of carbon emissions by 55 gigatons, and the target is to be achieved by 2030 at the COP21. So India is one of the signatory to this 2015 Paris Climate Agreement, wherein we agreed to achieve this sustainable development goals, which are given to us as a target, and 193 countries they have signed, they are signatory to this Paris Climate Agreement. And India is one of the 193 countries which has accepted that yes, it is our target to achieve the sustainable development goals by the given target year, that is 2030. So by 2030 we have taken a pledge that we would be achieving these sustainable development goals. And when I am talking about SDGs, you must be thinking that we were talking about ESG, and suddenly I shifted my focus to SDGs. Why so? Because I wanted to tell you the linkage between the SDG and ESG. And here I would like to reiterate the statement given by our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, referring to SDGs, that these goals reflect our evolving understanding of the social, economic and environmental linkages that define our lives. So this statement is giving us a complete reason, complete genesis of what we are doing into the ESG, the way it started, what is the purpose behind having these ESGs. So these goals are giving a reflection to our evolving understanding of the concerns, that is social and environmental linkages, and we are alive because of our positive work environment, positive environment in which we are living, because we have to breathe the air which is available with us. So when we talk about the SDGs, there are 17 SDGs, and I am giving you a complete list of the SDGs. And if you go through these SDGs, the 17 SDGs, and you find that in one way or the other, ESG is present in almost all the goals. Somewhere, if you talk about the first goal, that is eradication of poverty, it is having a concern towards a social problem. If we talk about zero hunger, again into the social problem. If you talk about sustainable cities and community, it is talking about environmental as well as governance. So at times you find that one SDG is taking care of at least two aspects, either environmental social or social governance or environmental governance. And when I could make a sum of it, I could make a sum total of it. Out of 17 goals, I could find that 8 goals are taking care of environmental concern, and 11 goals are there which are taking care of, which are talking about the social concerns, and again the remaining 8 goals are there which talk about the governance issue. So in one way or the other, all 17 SDGs, they talk about either of environmental or social or governance. So it is no more confined to a corporate entity only. I would say ESG is for all of us, not only for corporate entity, for each and everyone who is living on this earth has to take care of these 3 important concerns, that is ESG. So now let us have a look at the way it has evolved, the evolution of ESG reporting in India. So I would like to present before you the timeline, the way it started. So if you look at 2009, there was a voluntary CSR guidelines. Initially it was voluntary in nature, and in 2019 the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, it set forth voluntary guidelines on corporate social responsibility, which actually is a kind of initiation of the journey towards ESG disclosures. So it is a first step. I can say that it is in the direction of environmental, social and governance area, that is domain where we have started talking about. So since 2009, Ministry of Corporate Affairs started talking about the CSR. Then comes 2012. In 2012, we got a new reporting regime named Business Responsibility Reporting, that is called BRR. Now what is this BRR? It is actually a report which emphasizes sustainable and ethical business conduct, that our business conduct need to be sustainable as well as ethical. And here Ministry of Corporate Affairs actually mandated the top 100 listed companies to include BRR in their annual reports. It was not mandatory for all, it was mandated for only top 100 listed companies, that they need to provide a report in the name of BRR, that is Business Responsibility Reports. Then came year 2013, where we got we transformed ourselves from voluntary CSR to mandatory CSR. We got mandatory CSR legislation. So companies which are meeting specific financial criteria, that is in terms of net worth, turnover or profit thresholds, they were required to allocate a portion of their profits to CSR initiatives. We all know that they have to spend 2% of their profits on listed CSR activities. So we got a new regime of mandatory CSR, coming up with the CSR as a mandate that companies which are meeting specific threshold on certain parameters, they need to shell out 2% of their profits on listed CSR activities. Then came 2015, where we got the expansion to SEBI's BRR. Now Securities and Exchange Board of India, it expanded BRR, that is Business Responsibility Reporting, based on the National Voluntary Guidelines. We also call it NVGs. It was extending the requirement to the top 500 companies listed on BSE, that is Bombay Stock Exchange, in 2015. So BRR was now expanded to a list of 500 companies, to the top 500 companies, so that there can be a impact in a larger way, in a greater way. So that was the motive behind expanding the scope of BRR reporting, that is Business Responsibility Reporting. Then came 2017, when SEBI came up with a unified reporting framework, and they also started talking about GDS disclosure, that is Green Debt Securities Disclosure. It was the year 2017 when SEBI came up with this unified reporting framework, which we call as URF, and also the GDS disclosure. So it is basically what? It is the implementation of integrated reporting standards for the companies which are publicly listed, which are listed in the stock exchange. For them it need to be implemented, and SEBI actually mandates disclosure requirements specifically for green debt securities, that is GDS. Then came 2019, where SEBI started talking about stewardship code, and it was actually enforced these guidelines for all mutual funds and every category of AIFs, that is called alternative investment funds, concerning their investment in listed equities. And eventually we got this NGRBC in 2019 only, National Guidelines on Responsible Business Conduct. Now you must be thinking what this NGRBC is. It is actually a government issued this guideline which provides a framework to provide assistance to companies in enhancing their ESG practices, with a strong focus on two things. One is transparency and another is accountability. And then eventually we got in 2021-22 we got the introduction of BRSR, that is Business Responsibility and Sustainability Report, which replaced the erstwhile BRR. So earlier we had BRR, Business Responsibility Report, now we have BRSR. Now this BRSR is offering more detailed sustainability disclosures, which is aligned with the international framework, for instance GRI, that is Global Reporting Initiatives. So from 2023 onwards, the top 1000 listed companies by market capitalization, they are required to submit mandatory BRSR disclosures. So this was the evolution of ESG in India. I tried to provide you a brief understanding of what exactly we mean by BRR, CSR, ESG, and the way it has been implemented in India. I would be sharing with you the greater details of it in the next lecture of mine. Thank you so much.